Hello, it's our weekly update. I've been doing this video, I don't know how many times. I've done it for like 2 days now. I keep getting interrupted, either by myself or someone popping in to ask questions, which is fine, come and visit us. That's what we want. Or in other cases, wildlife comes to visit. We're not living anywhere where we have to worry about anything like bears or whatever popping in, but we do have some, they're not pigeons, I don't think, but there's some kind of small bird that kind of hangs out and sort of does pigeony things. And I'll put in a little video of that, either overlapping or next to what I'm talking about right now, just so you can see one of the interruptions that occurred while I was trying to record this. But moving on, earlier this week, we had someone pop into our YouTube channel area, and leave a comment about Dress Up Darling. We had a short that we made to promote it, and they were just a brief comment saying, "Oh yeah, the story's going too good for too long, and it's bound to take a turn for the worse, and the trope that authors use has ruined me to this." Which, the basic flow of a story is that you have to have calm points and you have to have points of, conflict, ups and downs, and then there's the cliffhangers involved, which is like every chapter, obviously, because you need something to keep people coming back, right? Something, what's gonna happen next? Well, they were implying, though, in the way that they wrote this, it seemed like they were thinking something really bad might be coming, and I hadn't read it at that time. I have not read all of it yet. So, this, Oshinoko, which, some dark stuff, it's good, but, boy, you're gonna catch a case of the feels like every chapter you read of this thing, and most of them are not going to be particularly good feelings. Like when they go up and down, they go real hard on that up and down emotional roller coaster. So, plus on my way, I just noticed that I had out. Might as well. So, this series, however, upon further inquiry with a coworker who reads it whenever it comes out, is more lighthearted, and it's meant to be that way. It's only, it covers basically the three elements of cosplay culture. Your person who makes the costume, the person who wears the costume, and acts as the character and tries to embody them, and then to a lesser extent, the archiving of it, we'll call it, the people or individuals that like to take photos of the cosplay when they go to conventions. So that, those are the three elements that are kind of covered in this story. And I think that's one of the main kind of focuses that they like to do, where it's just been kind of like explaining to a new reader, kind of an introduction course, we'll call it, the 101 course of what cosplay culture is. That's one of the ways I interpret this story. There's other things involved here that are much deeper, and in some cases, I'm not sure if they themselves, the people in publishing it and the individual writing it, I don't know if they really intend for that kind of deeper meaning to be involved or not. Since one of the people that I know who reads it talks about it being kind of something you read just to kind of, if you're someone who's in part of cosplay culture, just to be able to say like, oh, what cute, amazing cosplay does our adorable main character get it, accomplish this week or this story arc, if you will. So, yeah, the other reason why you might not think that it has a, you know, a deeper messaging to it is that this series is published as a seinen. What that means is that the publisher, the Youngugangan, is a Square Enix, and it's kind of like a competition to jump for the high school level, we'll call it. And what that means is you are targeting kind of like your average high school student, and more specifically average male high school student, which means that you're probably not going to be doing a lot of like hardcore gender identity discussion on what makes a boy, what makes a girl, kind of, and, you know, is it okay to be, you know, some mix, you know, of physical one and, you know, emotional, metaphysical the other kind of thing. However, in the story, it's from the very beginning, there's a lot of these kind of themes that come up that, from my perspective, it kind of leads you into that direction of questioning those thoughts, and maybe acclimating yourself to these, you know, the myriad combinations that are out there. Because, you know, the boy at least, he is from a family that makes traditional dolls, these princess dolls basically, that are used for the Girls' Day Festival. And what you do with those dolls is you have a bride and a groom, and they're like these two, the prince and princess basically, and then you have a bunch of support staff, and you put them on this kind of like a tiered display. You know, on top are the bride and groom, and then depending on how much money you have, and depending on like kind of how much you buy into the tradition, you need to have all these levels with these different dolls, and that represent different support staff jobs. So the more of those you have, and the taller this display is, the more energy, kind of the more positivity that you are kind of gathering and channeling into your household, and also hopefully towards the future happy marriage of your unwed female family members. Usually the younger girls, traditionally. So his family makes these dolls, and they're girls, you know, princesses, right? Little princess lady figures, and this main character boy, he enjoys making those figures. He enjoys making the dolls and the whole craftsmanship behind it. However, he's conflicted and ashamed because a long time ago, you know, some girl found out that he did that, and then she was like, "Ew, those are princess dolls. They're meant for girls, and you make them, and you're a boy. That's gross and weird." And so that this, you know, traumatizes him basically. So he's got this huge internal conflict related to that, and as a high schooler, that kind of is like a world-shattering kind of thing for him that he has to deal with in the very beginning of this story. The girl, on the other hand, our heroine, she is a popular girl who's also secretly a nerd. She likes the video games and the animes, and if you're popular, then you're not supposed to like those. Kind of a trope. And she basically discovers that this main character, boy, is good at making these dolls, and she thinks that's amazing. He has skill, and he's very good at making these costumes. So she praises him and wants him to help.
Okay, good.
All right, we're back. I'm just gonna clip this in. Otherwise, I'm never gonna get it done. We had someone asking about where a different shop was or a different location was. That all you really need to do is read the directory and use some observational skills, and you would have found it, because it's very close to where we are, and it's not hiding. It has really big signs on it, but they still had to pop in because our door is open and ask us where it was, because that's better than using your own eyeballs. Anyhow, so our main characters meet, and the girl thinks that what he does that he thinks he's ashamed of is actually an amazing thing that he does. And she says, specifically, there's a phrase that she says, and I'll probably pop it up, right here or something, where what you like has nothing to do with if you're a boy or a girl. She says that to him, and he is coming from a girl, because the thing that traumatizes him is something that a different girl said to him. He is amazed and so grateful that she has this opinion. But that statement in and of itself is very loaded when you think about it in the way you translate it, because using the kind of ideographic style of communication that Japanese and some other languages have, the symbol for boy and the symbol for girl, it's an ideograph, meaning it carries so many kind of implied meanings, or there's so many ways that you can interpret and translate those things that, depending on the context that it's used in, it can be anything from just a really simple comment to something that is very kind of deep and philosophical in how you interpret that, and could be really quite open-minded, we'll call it, towards the varying combinations, I guess you'd call it, the spectrum, we'll call it, of gender identity and the biological experience that you have. So she makes this comment, and that that is a kind of a big deal for him. And then she kind of reveals the fact that she really wants to be a cosplayer, and how she wants to be kind of popular and good, but she has no concept really of like the art behind it, I guess, when it comes to the crafting of the costume, and then some of the other elements as well related to the makeup and kind of the wigs that you have to kind of create and wear, like all these things related, the minor things related to creating the costume that she wants to put on to impersonate the character that she wants to. So the boy basically is recruited to become her kind of costumer. And we have like the first 2 books are basically related to this whole kind of journey, this personal journey, to go from this shy and kind of no self-worth experience to a more open and more confident kind of attitude towards the skill set that the main boy character has and enjoys using, but he's again ashamed of letting other people know that he has those skills, because a lot of them are related to kind of makeup and focusing on kind of the effeminate, which since he's a red-blooded, kind of portrayed in the beginning as heterosexual male, that's kind of painted in a negative light, or suggested that he's afraid that it's going to be, have bad results for him if it becomes public knowledge. And that's the thing about this story, because it's a seinen and it's written for your average high schooler. There are some things that they're doing on kind of on purpose, I would say, to keep it within a certain set of rails, so that it doesn't become too risque or too inflammatory, I guess, maybe, or revolutionary. Because the boy, they definitely want to portray him as being basically like a really well-behaved, regular heterosexual guy that just happens to make, have a lot of these skill sets that are necessary for the making a costume for this girl. And that, this very special and coincidentally important set of skills are all, kind of needed support skills for her, the main girl character. So you can pursue that classic awkward high schooler romance thing of the boy and the girl being too shy, and to cross over to that next step in their relationship beyond just the awkward flirting and suggesting of there being more to their relationship than kind of a friendship / professional arrangement. However, again, because the main character, the girl involved, she is trying to do all these cosplays of a variety of characters, where they, do a classic Takarazuka style kind of episode or series arc, where she has to dress up as a host. Can she do it? Can she get that level of, Prince Charming, we'll call it, or host powers, so that she can win against, and from what I could gather, because my kanji isn't that great, from what I could gather, she was competing against other men. So she dressed up as a host, but she was competing against other biological males, we'll call it. So can she, out-suave the ikemen, basically, of her school, all the, it boys that are normally popular? Can she outdo them? Is one of them. One of the episodes or one of the books. Which is kind of, we're delving into that area again of like, sort of non-binary behaviors or experiences. However, this is, that whole setup and environment is something that's kind of a interesting tradition, and has all these kind of cultural like trappings is the word I'm looking for. Has a bunch of cultural trappings that kind of add extra context to it, that supposedly, keep all the characters from like crossing any weird taboo lines that might exist related to, your gender identity not conforming to your biological gender that's assigned when you're born, But yeah, My Dress Up Darling definitely has a lot of what could be seen as fan service when it comes to the dressing and undressing of the main character or main heroine whenever she is doing one of her costume changes. But again, if you're covering cosplay culture as a 101 introduction, part of what it is. You know, if you're the person who likes to wears the costume, then you're not going to put on another costume on your old costume and just layer it. You know, you're going to have to off and on and like talk about how it fits and whether or not there are any elements of the costume that are uncomfortable and why. One of the first things that they do in their little 101 introduction is that they have a cosplay of a maid, kind of a character, and she wears a black dress, and they go to their first convention, and when she finishes, or she's, you know, partway through this convention, she, you know, comes over to the, you know, her costumer, and she, you know, expresses how she thinks he's gonna die, and then he realizes, we've been outside, and it's like, you know, it's not winter time, it's like spring or summer-ish, in the middle of the day, and all she's wearing is black clothing, and some of it's maybe thick stuff like wool or whatever. So if you wore black wool, you know, out in the sun around noon or whatever for a couple hours, you're gonna be sweating. You're gonna be gross sweaty, which again, because they're targeting your average high school male, there was like several pages of the, here are all the places that the girl got the sweaties, and they gotta and he, the, you know, main boy character has to figure out a way to navigate that without being a, you know, a creep or whatever you want to call it. So they've got that whole, you know, issue of how can he help her, especially since he feels some sort of responsible for it, since he's the one that made this dress all in black, despite that being the requirement to do that character. And then, you know, this is going to be out of like not context, but out of order, so to speak, when you think about where the different, you know, pictures are in the actual story. But yeah, when they do their very first encounter for her saying, "Oh, I need to get my measurements done so you can make my costume properly," you know, and since he is being portrayed as this shy, red-blooded, you know, heteronormative male, he has this whole like internal conflict and freak out as he's trying to take her measurements, because she, you know, gets down to a bikini, and then he's got to do like her tummy and all and everything, you know. And there's a whole, you know, thing about how do I do measurements of the more intimate areas of your body, and there's some, you know, kind of cool reactions and, you know, kind of illustrations to demonstrate like the internal trauma that's happening here, where he knows he needs to do this for the job, as it were, but he still also can't, you know, overcome the idea of, you know, the fact that it's a girl and a house, and he, you know, his hands are going to be near some bare skin. Ooh, you know, that kind of stuff that happens in some of these kind of rom-com-y, lighthearted stories about people that are, you know, new to the concept of romance and are awkward AF, you know. So, and then, you know, it's also helping with that whole, you know, you got to pad it with enough evidence that will, you know, keep people from delving too much into those interesting questions that arise from the very kind of first like main statement, main theme. It's, you know, main character writes, and in huge letters all over this one page of the whole, what you like has nothing to do with if you're a boy or a girl, you know. So yeah, and again, this is my exploration of this particular comic was all, you know, sparked from that comment we got from our short. And in honesty, when I first heard about My Dress Up Darling, my brain just thought it was some relatively kind of shallow, you know, 'cause, 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 you know, entertain the average mook of a high schooler with, you know, excuses for underwear time on the girly. But you know, opening it up and reading it with the intent of understanding like where other fans of this series might be coming from. Yeah, there are some points where that kind of is the issue of this, you know, meant to be fan service, but the story itself is something that kind of does have a lot of depth to it if you examine things from the perspective of, you know, what defines you as a person, and this whole question of, you know, your hobbies are in no way something that needs to be guided or restricted by your identity as a male or a female, or you know, whatever else you might identify as. Yeah, like oddly progressive, I would say, and I'm wondering if it's, you know, intended to be kind of an under the radar kind of deal, since it, like I said, it's something hiding in plain sight, so to speak, within a you know, mainstream publication that may not necessarily be something that normally would consciously be willing to explore that topic matter. Just like in the United States, where, you know, a lot of those kinds of themes and topics were something that were restricted only to adults for a long time, and then, you know, even now, if you were probably to target it towards even high schoolers, you're probably going to get some very heated responses or very passionate opinions shared with you about the content that you are publishing and, you know, selling to people that are still technically, you know, not adults. I always kind of forget about the United States, like what the ages are for, you know, that dividing line for a lot of people. But in Japan, like, you can basically quit school after ninth grade, I think, is like 16. Like, if you wanted to just not go to school anymore and to become a member of the workforce, you can do that, you know, and you don't need to finish high school. And probably can do that in America too. So with that attitude in mind, I think sometimes with seinen stuff, they can get pretty out there, because they, you know, they understand that, like, not all the people that are within that age group are, you know, still like in school and quote unquote, you know, young developing individuals, but they are, you know, just another working Joe or Jill or whatever, doing their paycheck to paycheck, you know, once they hit it 16. So there's that too to consider when you wonder about the publication choices that are being made. Yeah, that's I guess that's the best I'm going to be able to do, and it is a long one this week. So if you made it this far, thank you. If you didn't, well, you're not here, so whatever. See you next week. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to come to the store that's in Waikiki. We're open from Tuesdays to Sundays, 10 to 5. If you can't make it into the store, don't forget to check out our website, where we have everyday updates on what's expected to come in and what we actually have in stock. You can also order online.